Hey guys, welcome to this live session on how to become an AWS architect. So let us begin with this session. First, let us know why AWS architect, or why do you have to become an AWS architect. So in the simplest terms, an AWS architect will oversee the organization's infrastructure strategy on the cloud. So you might have your own organization, or you might be working in an organization. They might have an on-premise setup which they want to shift to the cloud. So to shift to the cloud, they need cloud architects who can build the same kind of infrastructure on the cloud system. So here it is AWS. Any cloud systems like Azure or GCP, they all have their own deployment softwares, and they all have their own web servers, and they have their own data centers. So using their data centers, you will have to create an infrastructure which is basically the exact same copy of your own infrastructure, because you're shifting your entire infrastructure into AWS. So AWS architects will oversee that. Like, they'll see how to migrate it, how to do that cost effectively, how to make your cloud system secure, and how to make it reliable and highly available. So now let us look at the average salary of an AWS architect. So the source is from Glassdoor, and the average salary of an AWS architect in the United States of America is $122,000 per annum. And coming to India, it's 7.3 lakhs per annum. So according to Glassdoor, in just the last month, there have been 5,765 different jobs posted in India. And also in the United States, it is 33,272 different jobs on cloud architects. According to Forbes, cloud architects is in the Forbes top 15 list of high paying technical jobs. So you can see both are legitimate institutions, and they have provided statistics which can back up my claim. That is, AWS architect is one of the best technical role which you can take up. So now let us take an example and see why an organization needs an AWS architect. Let us think we have a movie streaming application. So my application will stream you movies if you have a subscription. So now I want my entire data which is on my on-premise setup. So every time a new movie is added, it is added in the data center which I own. That is my on-premise setup. Now I want to cancel, or I want to remove all of my infrastructure and move the entire architecture to the cloud. That is, I want to host my website on the cloud. I want to keep my data in the cloud. I want to keep my databases in the cloud. So all the features in my on-premise setup has to exist in the cloud, and it has to work as the same. So I just have to pay the cloud systems like AWS. If you take up Amazon Web Services, they do everything for you. You just have to pay them and launch or create an architecture which will help you, and that architecture will be maintained by them. Whenever there is a software upgrade, they do it for you. Whenever there is some maintenance windows, they check it for you. You don't need to do anything else apart from paying and creating it. And if you want, they provide monitoring tools also. You can monitor your complete infrastructure sitting in front of a system. And also they take care of everything. That means a lot of burden releases. So a lot of work burden and a lot of infrastructure burden which you have to maintain constantly and upgrade constantly will reduce. And that is where an AWS architect comes inside. So to move it to the cloud, obviously it is expensive at the first, because they are shifting their entire data and applications to the cloud. To do that cost effectively, and to make your cloud system, to make your application hosted on the cloud system reliable and highly available, and also to get a global reach, you will have to have an architect who knows how to do that exactly. So that is what an AWS architect does. He understands what should be the solution for this migration, and he executes that. Now, so if you're interested in architecting entire IT infrastructures, so right now I explained you. So if it makes sense to you that you are creating an entire IT infrastructure with just your web service, it is not a one-person job, but a team of architects can build it. And if what I told you right now, building an entire infrastructure on a cloud-based system, if it interests you, or if you love to provide solutions to business problems which can be solved with technology, or if you want to create scalable and highly available architecture for your organization or the organization which you work. If the answer is yes to one or all of these questions, I'm pretty sure you can take up the AWS Architect role. You can prepare for it. So now let us see what exactly is an AWS Architect role. So an AWS Architect is a cloud architect basically. AWS Architect in this sense, he's a cloud architect who is working on the Amazon Web Services cloud provider. Cloud architects can work on any cloud-based systems, but an AWS architect works on a system which is running on the Amazon Web Services infrastructure. So an AWS architect should plan and budget what they're going to do in the cloud. If there is a new software or a new application which has to be hosted or migrated to the cloud system, he has to plan accordingly how to do that and also budget it so that it is cost optimized and effective. And then the architect also should provide solutions to clients who have requirements on the systems and their applications which we've created for them. So if a client is asking for a solution which will optimize their cost and our cost also, you as an architect have to find the solution for that, and you'll have to solve it using the technologies provided to you, that is AWS. And then architecting the plan. You will have to architect any kinds of plan for hosting a software or pushing or migrating a complete application or complete infrastructure. You will have to architect that plan accordingly so that again it is cost effective, it is reliable and highly available. And finally, you should manage the architecture. So a group of architects will create it, but if you create it and leave it as such, it might crash one day. So there might be some mistakes or some errors which you would have not seen. So you will have to constantly manage it and monitor it so that that architecture is continuously highly available and reliable. So a cloud architect's basic roles are these, so that he has to plan and budget, he has to architect the plan, he has to provide solutions, and also finally manage the architecture which is hosted on the Amazon Web Services tool. So now let us move on and look at various types of AWS architects. So there are three types of architects. One is enterprise architect, one is solutions architect, and technical architect. So solutions architect is the most common buzzword in the AWS domain, and solutions architects are the most paid certificate holders in the AWS domain. So what are these enterprise and technical architects? So an enterprise architect has his specialization in creating an IT infrastructure, but a solutions architect has to know how to do that also, and well, he has to know how to provide solutions for clients for their business problems with technology. And then if you see technical architect, he doesn't need to know much about the enterprise or the infrastructure which is hosted on AWS. He just has to know about the softwares and applications which are hosted on cloud. So he just has to know how to architect those applications and make them highly available. But solutions architect, as I told you, it is the most common buzzword, and solutions architect should know how to do both, that is enterprise architecting and also technical architecting. So all of these three put together will combine and give you solutions architect. So now let us see how to become an AWS solutions architect. So I have gone through multiple job descriptions from Amazon, Cisco, McAfee, and still more companies, and I have put together some roles and responsibilities which has to be learned if you want to land a job as an AWS solutions architect. So these are those. First, let us see one by one. So participate in planning, implementation, architecting, and growth of the infrastructure on the cloud. So as I already told you, this was what is an AWS solutions architect. In that particular slide, we saw all of this. That is, he has to plan, he has to implement, he has to architect, and also look at the growth of the infrastructure on the cloud. Growth of the infrastructure in the sense he has to manage it. Second point is to develop, deploy, and also manage reliable, highly available, full stack applications which run on the cloud. So a complete application which is running on the cloud, the biggest example which I can give you is Netflix. Netflix is completely running on the AWS infrastructure, and that application is highly available and reliable, and it is hosted on AWS. And you can think of how huge of an infrastructure they had to build to keep a application like Netflix on it, because it has so much of content. It has so much of content which needs a very high, which needs a lot of capacity, and that has to be hosted on AWS. So you can think of how an architect could have created that complete plan which will host the website, which will keep the data, and also how to connect between the website and the data, so that whenever a customer is trying to watch a movie, it has to go to the CDN and get the data and come back as soon as possible. And then identify clients' needs and provide a reliable business solution which will fulfill their expectations. As I already told this point many times, again, you will have to identify the client's needs and their requirements as they tell you, and for that particular problem, you will have to provide a reliable business solution. And then migrate existing applications from on-premise setup to the cloud. So you might have an application already running in your on-premise data center, and right now, to optimize costs, you want to move it to the cloud, and the architect, the AWS architect, should know how to do that. And then finally, monitor existing cloud applications to find ways to make it better, and also assist the developers and operations teams on new architectural updates. So you will have to monitor the cloud applications and the architecture constantly, so that to check whether any updates has to be made or not. If any updates has to be made, you should inform the developing team and the operations team, so that they work on the application to be compatible with that architectural update, and the operations team will look at how this particular application is going to be run. So now let us look at the required skills. So these skills were again taken from the job descriptions. So these were the most asked skills for an AWS Solutions Architect. So obviously for an AWS Solutions Architect, the first skill would be AWS skills. You should know and you should have a deep understanding of AWS concepts, AWS services, and everything else, how to create an architecture, how an AWS architecture works, the best practices in AWS. All of this should be deeply understood. And then problem solving skills. Yes, this skill is required for most of the jobs in the world, but for a solutions architect, as you have to provide constant solutions every day for all the clients' needs, so you should have problem solving skills too. And the third skill is Linux and Unix. So yes, a lot of softwares and websites are hosted on Linux based systems, and you should know shell scripting and other Linux based operations so that you can survive as an AWS Solutions Architect. And then secure and cost optimized architectures. You should be able to build a secure and cost optimized architecture at the same time. Your architecture or your website should not be able to breached by an hacker or an attacker. They should be secure enough so that the data is not leaked and your website is safe enough. And finally, programming languages. Yes, programming languages is an added benefit for any technical role you take, but for an AWS Solutions Architect, as he is building an architecture, if an application is going to be run, let us take it is a Java application, he should understand what runtimes and what environment changes he has to make or he has to add, so that this Java application can run on that. Same with any programming languages he knows. For example, a Python application or a Go or a Ruby application, whatever application it is, he should understand, or he should be able to understand how this particular application is going to be run on the cloud system. And then most importantly, you will need an AWS Solutions Architect certification. So learning these skills is not a problem, but when you attend an interview, they are not going to check what is on your head or what skills do you have. They'll be checking at that instance what is on your resume, and if you have an AWS Solutions Architect certification on your resume, they'll understand that you have cleared the exam and you have enough knowledge to take up the job. So what is in the AWS Solutions Architect certification? So the format is multiple choice, type is associate, and there is one more type that is professional, but a professional AWS Solutions Architect should have at least 3 years experience in the cloud domain. So the first certification you can take is Solutions Architect Associate. After taking that, so The delivery method would be a testing center nearby in your city, and then the maximum time available for you to complete the test is 130 minutes, and the cost for this particular certification is 150 USD. You can also take up multiple practice exams, and each of them cost 20 USDs. And this particular exam is available in 4 different languages: English, Japanese, Korean, and simplified Chinese. Now, what does this particular certification exam will validate? Because if an interviewer is seeing your resume and he checks that AWS Solutions Architect certification has been completed, so he should know how big and how much valuable is this particular certification. So this certification exam is structured in a way that it validates all of these. The first one is effectively demonstrate knowledge of how to architect, deploy secure and robust applications on the AWS technology. So they'll ask you multiple case studies and different types of application questions that will demonstrate your knowledge on how to architect and deploy secure and robust applications. And then define a solution using architectural design principles based on customer requirements. The questions will also be based on user requirements, and you will have to combine user requirements and architectural design principles to provide a solution. And finally, provide implementation guidance based on best practices to the organization throughout the life cycle of the project. Yes, a huge organization would have DevOps lifecycle installed in them. So the DevOps lifecycle will go from plan till monitoring and come back again to plan. So that DevOps lifecycle should also be hosted on the cloud system. So now this particular solutions architect should be able to provide implementation guidance based on best practices. There might be a DevOps lifecycle already running, but to improve that, there is always something to improve in your organization and in your DevOps lifecycle. To make the process faster and to make it better, you should provide implementation guidance based on the best practices that AWS provides. So finally, steps to clear the certification. So what are the needs and what are the topics and concepts which you should have understood and you should have clear knowledge about, so that you can go to the exam and give the exam and clear it. So let us discuss about that. The first thing you'll have to do is you'll have to go to the exam guide and look out for all the information and concepts which has to be learned. After looking at them, I would suggest first understand the basic and fundamentals of cloud computing and networking. Once you understood the basics and you have created a foundation, you can build on top of that. On top of that, you will have to learn Amazon Web Services best practices and what is Amazon Web Services. After learning that, you will have to learn various services which will help you to build a complete architecture. So some examples are like EC2, S3, RDS, and you can learn Redshift, you can learn Firehose, Kinesis Firehose. You can learn various services, and for monitoring you can learn CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and you can learn a lot of services, and all of those services should help you to create a complete cloud-based architecture. So these are the 3 steps involved in clearing the certification. But you might be thinking, how can I learn all of this at one place? So that's where Intellipaat comes in, and we have put together a course which teaches you from the scratch till the advanced levels of AWS Solutions Architect certification. So to get started, go to the course page of AWS Solutions Architect. Now let me take you over there and explain it to you. So this is the course page of AWS Solutions Architect certification, and Intellipaat provides you that. Intellipaat provides and rigorous training for 6 weeks in online instructor-led training, and also they provide self-based videos for 40 hours. And also industry-based exercises and project work will take up to 32 hours. And Intellipaat also provides certification and job assistance for people who have successfully completed the course. And Intellipaat provides 24/7 lifetime support and access. So if you have any doubts at the middle of the night, you can get it cleared then and there. And also the course is available for your entire lifetime. That is, you can attend live trainings even after 4 years after you have taken up this course. And also you can get technical support on the course even after 4-5 years. And also, if you take up this course, you get Unix shell scripting course for free. So as I told you, Linux and Unix are one of the main skills in AWS or any cloud computing platforms. So this is a good deal. And also guys, people who are watching this particular YouTube live session, you can use the code YouTube30 right now to get a 30% off on this particular course. So let me go back to the slides, and we have come to the end of this session, and I hope you have understood what I have taught you. And also, if you want to take up an AWS certification, if you want to clear one, and this is the right time, and go for it. Thank you so much.